Hey y'all, welcome back to A Dinosaur in the Library. I'm Dawn, and I have a book review for you today. I checked this out of the library last week, and as I said before, I've been doing way more leisure reading than really I have time for, but my brain has just been in complete disarray, and my leisure reading helps get it back in line, so that's what I'm doing. And I finished this one this morning before I had to go to campus for a meeting, and it's Dispatches from Pluto, Lost and Found in the Mississippi Delta by Richard Grant. So this is a nonfiction book. Richard Grant is a travel writer. He's someone who he's been living, when he started this book, he had been living for a number of years in New York and Arizona with his longtime girlfriend. And he's written books, let's see, let me pull up the author page back here because I can't remember. He's written a book, traveled extensively in Africa and Latin America, made the first disastrous attempt at rafting the unexplored Malagarasi River in Tanzania, which is described in his book Crazy River. His best-known book is the adventure classic God's Middle Finger, about travels in the lawless Sierra Madre Mountains in Mexico. And his first book, American Nomads, was about the lure of the open road and was made into a BBC documentary of the same name. So some of you may recognize his name from that. He is British, but he has traveled all over the world, and he has lived for quite some time in the U.S. And he ended up with some friends from the Mississippi Delta. So for those of you who don't know, Mississippi, if you just happen to not be from the U.S. or you're not familiar with U.S. geography, Mississippi is in the very, very deep South. It's right next door to Alabama, where I grew up, and one of our unofficial mottos has always been, at least we're not Mississippi, if that tells you anything based on how bad Alabama is a lot of the time. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some beautiful things in Mississippi, and some of my family is originally from Mississippi, so there's that. However, the point is this: Mississippi is highest in a lot of things that you don't want to be highest in. Teen pregnancy, poverty, things like that. So it has a lot of problems stemming from extensive histories of racism, impoverishment, and the South, the Deep South, just has a lot of issues with that anyway. So you've got lots of issues with historic racism coupled with current racism and institutional racism that are compounded with things like, you know, just high levels of poverty, no development economically, that sort of thing. So there's a lot of crap going on. And the Mississippi Delta is a very strange, specific area of Mississippi. It's one of those things that's very, very southern within the South. You know, it's even its own thing. But I am always very, very interested in reading about the rural South, because it is A, it's one of my research interests, but B, it's where I grew up and it's what I know, and I'm always interested to see what people have to say about it. I'm always very cautious reading anything by someone who is not from the rural South, or at least from those states originally. Without fail, they tend to be have this tone of superiority, very condescending, just things like that. And I, as a person who is from this area, will admit up front and 100% that the South has a lot of issues. I love my home state. It is beautiful. And some of the people I love most in the world live there or were born there. However, it's run by idiots, and there's a lot of problems with it, just like there are with most of the southern states. There's a lot of issues and a lot of things that need to be corrected. It is by no means a perfect place. However, that doesn't mean I don't love it as my home. No one's home is not flawed, some places more than others, and being aware of that is the first step to fixing it, I think. And I've always been one of the people who say that I don't want to abandon my home that I really kind of love to the idiots. So just because there's all this crap going on, I don't want to leave, because then it's not going to get fixed. Because if everybody who cares leaves, it's not going to get fixed. And all of that is to say that I'm suspicious of people from outside the South writing about the South simply because they did not grow up here, and they did not experience the complexities and the multiple layers of issues that happen and cause the South to be the way it is. And I'm invariably proven right that I should be cautious, because I've never read a book by someone not from the South about the South that was great. Case in point, Dispatches from Pluto. So I really liked the way he wrote. He wrote very colloquially, and it was very easy read. I enjoyed the read, the actual writing itself. However, I did have a lot of issues with his tone. I will say that I feel like he tried to represent the people that he was talking to pretty accurately. So it's hard to kind of it's hard to explain it, but there's a definite difference in how he presented people when he was just describing them, or situations when he was describing them, versus when he was talking about them. So when he was describing them and presenting them to the reader before having a discussion about something tied to them, he was actually really good about that. They seemed pretty accurate from what I could tell. I mean, not knowing these people in person, obviously I can't make that judgment. But they seemed pretty straightforwardly presented. And I did appreciate that. So the book ended up getting 3 stars from me based on that and the writing style. However, I feel like he had a very weird tone. Sometimes it was a little condescending. Sometimes it was a little superior. And sometimes it was a little bit, can you believe this shit goes on? This is ridiculous. And in some ways, maybe it is, but there's a difference in someone outside your home saying this is ridiculous than someone who lives here, right? And I hope you guys get what I mean, and that I'm not defending the problems of the South. But he just had a lot of weirdness in his tone. There was a lot of, for lack of a better word, bougie criticisms of certain things that I just really wasn't down for. So I did only give this 3. I started to give it 2, but I did, I do want to concede that he did seem to present people fairly honestly from what I could tell. But it just wasn't that great, which disappoints me greatly, because I think that the rural South, in particular places like the Delta, which is one of the most underdeveloped and most impoverished and most problematic areas of a state that is highly problematic to begin with, these places need to be written about. People need to understand the problems and the issues that happen and cause these places to be the way they are. However, no one is ever going to really get an accurate vision of it if we just have these voices that are so condescending talking about it. So, I mean, comparing this to something like Salvation on Sand Mountain, which was written by a man whose name I cannot remember, and I don't remember where on my shelf it is, or I'd find it right quick. I can't remember his name, but he's from near Birmingham, and he's writing about Pentecostal snake handlers in North Alabama, in a specific area near Sand Mountain. And even though it's obvious that he's like, this is not, he's very clear that he does not feel like this whole snake handling thing is a normal situation. But there's a different tone. Because he grew up in Alabama and he knows, the weirdness that happens, and he has a context to place everything in. And I felt like some of the time when he was talking about things, it seemed like he was talking about them from a place of not really being sure what context they were coming out of. So yeah, there's that. Disappointing read, but not altogether terrible. But if you do go out and read this, take it with a grain of salt, because like I said, it's not that fabulous in terms of the tone it's giving. And if you are from Mississippi, particularly if you're from the Delta, you may want to give this a read and see what you think about it. Maybe I'm just being overly critical. I don't know. But if you are from this area, I would love it if you have read this book, or if you do read this book, let me know what you think about his characterizations and his descriptions, because like I say, to me, they sort of seemed like they were okay, but I could be wrong because I'm not from that area and I have not traveled extensively in the Delta area. So I would love to know your opinions and views on it, please. So if you've read this, or you have an opinion, or you'd like to discuss it, please drop any comments down below, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.